Hi, I'm Phil from Driftworks and this is my E30 M3 Track Car project. So yeah, lots to do before we go for this test session on Thursday at Donington. One of the most important things is having a look at the front lower arms and the clearance to the tension rod, because we've fitted these MRT roll center correction adapters onto the E36 M3 uprights that are on this car. And as well as improving roll center, they improve the steering speed as well, which is something I wanted to do. But as a result of that, we've gained more steering lock, which means that it's the wheels actually hitting the tension rod. So we need to have a look at what we can do to sort that. So, Alcon's off. Excuse the mess. It's been well and truly body shopped, as normal, but I thought I'd just quickly explain what I'm doing. So this car was perfectly corner weighted and aligned obsessively. It's always worth making sure you get that done 100% perfectly before you go and start creating new arches and things like that. Otherwise you'll find that your corner weight have to lift one side by 10 mil and everything will look off. Yeah, all that was done before it went to the body shop. But when we did move it, what we noticed was the tyre is hitting the tension rods here on full lock, which, you know, you don't do full lock on track very often, but it is very annoying, and it's actually the tyre, not the wheel. So if the wheel scrapes, sometimes that's not as bad because it'll still move. If the tyre actually touches, it'll grab, which is obviously really bad. It's like putting the brakes on. So it's part of a problem with the DTM style lower arm kits that you get, which is why we've made our own lower arm here. And part of the reason we made that was so that we could mount this point for the tension rod further inboard and shorten this tension rod while still having enough strength here. So this is a steel arm that we've made. As you can see, there's adjustment on the outboard side and inboard on the lower arm here. So what I'm going to do is essentially move the center part of this arm further inboard, which means that the leverage point of this is going to change. And actually, if I didn't do any adjustment to the tension rod, I'd end up with way more caster than I want. So what I'm going to do is measure pretty accurately with a tape measure from this point to the center of the rod end pin there. And as long as I get the lower arm length the same, exactly the same, and that measurement exactly the same, alignment won't change at all. I'm sure there's a few people saying, why don't you just restrict the lock with some spaces in the steering rack, which obviously I could do, but as much as this isn't a drift car, steering lock is important. It really does my head in on watching race cars, often during a race, meet the limits of a very restricted rack because of things like this, running big wide wheels with big tyres up front, and driving in the rain, for example. You'll see them often spinning out. Because they don't have that recovery lock. Like I say, could solve the problem, would probably have about as much steering lock as I had before if I just restricted the rack. But the proper way to do it, in my opinion, is to allow the rack to travel as far as it can, allow as much steering lock for recovery as you can get. It's not going to be anything like a drift car, obviously. But, you know, I think why restrict yourself with restricted lock? We always throw a tab of weld on these outer lock nuts here. The forces at this end massively more than the forces at that end. Obviously that's just mostly lateral, but here you've got the shear loading here. It's a huge rod end, so it's well up to the job, but obviously the longer you make this, the more leverage there is on this point. So yeah, it's really important to make sure you've got enough thread in here. So this is a hugely long rod end, and to lock it off and get the angle correct so it doesn't bind as you sweep the steering. And also we just, yeah, like I say, put just a quick blob of weld on there to keep it in place. Okay, all done. I was only comfortable going 7.5mm longer on this one. That's left me with 22mm of thread inside here on an M20 rod end. So, I mean, ideally, I'd probably build out the arm, reinforce it again, but that'll be all right for now, even with the massive amount of forces on this under braking. All locked off inboard, so again, that's 7.5mm shorter, 7.5mm longer. Did I say longer? Anyway, that's what I meant. So that's shorter. This has been shortened by about 4mm, but measured exactly from the same point here to the centre of the pin for the tension rod there. So alignment should be, fingers crossed, pretty much identical. Just got a split pin to put in and then put this side back together, do the same thing to the other side. Ugh. Back to the drawing board. Still hitting ever so slightly. Well, hitting quite a lot, and then I've put a wheel spacer on to see how much it's hitting by. I've put a 15mm wheel spacer on, it's still hitting. So I think what I'm going to do is move this mounting point on the lower arm here, but there's not a huge amount of meat there, so I've got to be very careful with it. This job escalated a bit, which is really unusual. I'm going to have to cut this off and move it. So, simply going to do that. Giving myself a nice suntan with my best impatient welding. I got my welding sleeve on this time. It's only half a suntan. Bit of paint, no time for a good job here. Just ground back the bit that I'm going to have to tack weld the nut onto. Time to get it back on. It's going to be almost impossible to see this, but let's see whether we can get in there. Changing that mounting point on the lower arm has given us lots more clearance. It does just ever so slightly bind here, but that's actually forced lock, and also bearing in mind that as the wheel goes up, this is in full droop at the moment, as the wheel goes up it actually gets further away from that tension rod. So yeah, more than enough clearance I think, or, you know, not more than enough, but I cannot get any more without compromising lower arm strength and stuff like that. This has actually meant that I could push the rod end on the outboard rod end back in where it was as well. So yeah, kind of a win-win all round, apart from the level of escalation on a Friday, and we're still here at 6 o'clock. Everyone else has gone home. They're probably having a beer, so I think I'm going to go and do the same. Nice way to wake yourself up on a Sunday morning. Thought I'd come and get some stuff done on this because it's weighing on my mind and deadline approaching, etc. So not a lot of actual physical progress that I can show you, but planned out what I'm going to do with the new filler here. This is the old one. I found this. I'm going to mount it to that. It's going to kind of be about here, but I need some alloy welding to do that. The reason for that, obviously not using this that I spent ages making with Gaz years and years ago, is because now the hinges are in the way. I could do a convoluted pipe system to get it to this, but this was actually always really crap at filling up anyway. It always used to kind of get airlocked a little bit and splash back if you're using a pump, or it would take 25 minutes to fill up. and if we're using our siphon, it would also be a bit of a pain sometimes. So happy to do that. I still need to work out what I'm going to do with the boot prop, or I think we might try gas struts. We might try some off a Z3, something like that. That's another one for Tuesday because it's a bank holiday. I've also looked at the, you don't have to see there, but anti-roll bar. The rear anti-roll bar needs to be a bit firmer, and there's a couple of ways I can go about doing that. One is to just increase the thickness of the anti-roll bar again, which I've already done. There we go, that's the bar. So as you can see, yeah, we've increased the stiffness of this by halving a larger bar, a larger tube, and then sandwiching it around this and then welding it to the existing 1-inch bar. There's not a huge amount of space to do more of that. I can add it in certain areas, and every bit that you do doesn't have to be the same left and right. It doesn't have to be balanced or equal at all. Any stiffness you add anywhere on this bar between these 2 points, then that will increase the stiffness, the roll stiffness of the car. But my idea of what I really want to do, as you can see, these are in their full stiff mode as well, and they're also in their full stiff mode, full outboard mode on the mounts that we made on the lower arms. Anyway, I think that's probably going to be one for after the test session at Donington, and I think what I'm probably better off doing is seeing how the car handles now as well, because obviously made some pretty huge changes in terms of ride height. So the anti-roll bar not being firm enough last time I drove it, things might have changed a little bit as well. We've got new Nankang tyres on here, and because the other ones had died in the last test session at the front. So yeah, and I've got the adjustability on the front bar as well, so I can soften that off if it does end up a bit pushy. What else have I done? So very unexciting, but had to spend about 30 minutes getting the pins for these in the right place, as they're a little bit seized up, so that was a bit of drama. I've also had the laptop out, and I've had a look at some of the parameters in the ECU and Cyvex that we're using this, because we're still getting an 8,000 RPM limit, and it should be an 8,500 RPM limit on this car. So I was just having a quick look into whether there's some settings for some kind of limp that's not actually coming into effect and affecting the car itself, but might be being applied and reducing the RPM limit. And there was one for a VVT limp RPM that's set at 8,000. So maybe that's it, don't know. The only way I'll find out really is giving it a blast, and I can't do that until I've got the fuel sorted, obviously, because it'll go spilling everywhere. So that's probably it for a Sunday. Back on Tuesday. Happy Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
We got a plan, got some bits.
We have.
One of them we've got to remake, but you know.
Yeah.
So essentially this filler is going to kind of sit roughly here, something like that. Nice and short, but still with enough flex in this silicone joiner that you can see here. It's covered in tape, to allow us to then make our lives nice and easy with this plate here, and cut that down and bend it so that will actually mount to the back face of the boot aperture there. That's the plan anyway. Joe's going to get cutting and welding.
We'll see how it goes. Well,
see where the tailor's up, because it ain't going to be up out.
Oh, we've already got a hole there to mount to.
Yeah, that was what the pin used to mount to.
Yeah, perfect.
Have fun.
That's the first couple of welds done. Chucked it in the bead roller. Got a nice lip on there now, so moving on. Hope it fits.
Fancy that, mate.
It's on, isn't it? I said that's it until Phil comes out.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that it?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, no
No,
problem.
looks good. That looks strong, doesn't it? As long as we can get...
You can certainly get fuel in there.
Yeah. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Got a nice pipe in your hand there. What are we doing now?
A bit of duct into the gearbox cooler.
Yeah.
Was it overheating before?
It was. Yeah, Jay and I have just been underneath the car, just having a look at this. But he's going to basically use some of this to duct coldish air, more direct air from underneath the car alongside the diff into the gearbox cooler, which I think we were seeing 125. 130-ish on the oil temperature.
That's only a few laps of Donington, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not really that high. It's higher than I'd like it.
Plus it was minus 200 that day that we went, you know, it was freezing.
Yeah, it was pre-Christmas, wasn't it? So,
yeah.
So yeah, we just come up with a plan with that, and Jay's going to crack on. I'm nearly finished with editing the video that you've watched before this, so I think we're getting somewhere. Oh yeah, make sure you give us a like, subscribe, all that other nonsense, because yeah, this takes me forever to do. I think the video you just watched just take me about 8 hours to edit in total, so yeah. Likes and subscriptions.
To film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to go and finish that. Jay's going to crack on with this.
Yeah, it's pretty crude, but to test the idea at least, let's see if we can get a bit of air onto this cooler before we either upgrade it, get a shroud for the front of it and some proper ducting. I don't know what the answer is long term, but for now we've got plenty of other things to get on with this week and we need to get to Donington in 2 days. Next up then, back to the boot.
Yay!
Trying to add a gas strut to it so that it supports itself, so you can fill the fuel tank up in comfort.
Poshness, yeah.
Yeah.
This is just temporary. We just have no real clue what this is going to do as it sweeps down. But yeah, we'll drill a hole, just putting a nut on it for now, just to see whether it's going to work. And then we'll probably end up moving it to various positions on this to actually get it to work. Or maybe it won't work at all, we'll see.
First step's all right then. Don't fold the boot lids in half.
Yeah, it needs a little bit more structure there.
Oh no! Right, abandon ship.
That might be a bit strong. Another little quick job that wasn't on the list was had a slight clunk in the steering column when turning. And I don't know whether you can see down here, but there's a circlip as it goes through a bearing in the firewall there. That circlip had fallen off, but it also stretched, which means that I had to replace it. So Jay had to disassemble the dash, everything like that, and I've just managed to squeeze on the right size circlip, so that should be good. Steering's one of those things where things like that worry you quite a bit when you feel like notchiness and things like that, so yeah, well worth doing. Also had some success, small amount of success. A very kind viewer, he's a viewer of the channel, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
He has donated an E30 boot latch for us, a boot locking mechanism,
yeah,
sorry.
His name's Robin from Raw Motorsport.
Which is super kind, so that's apparently turning up today. But we had to find the actual latch itself. I've just been to very famous in Birmingham, Max and Bobby's they're called.
Not its official name.
Oh, it's not its official names, but yeah. What a spectacular place, and just found an E30, the dustiest E30 boot lid you've ever seen on the planet, and managed to remove a latch from it. So Jay's just given that a quick blast, and now we're getting some pretend metal on it.
Yeah, weld through primer. It's basically zinc coating, isn't it?
Get that bolted up, and you never know, we might actually have the boot lid secure enough and the fuel now contained enough and the steering back together enough to go outside and test and make a bit of noise, see what the new Venturi airbox sounds like. So fingers crossed, we'll be there in a minute. While we're here, get rid of the coil and the flappy paddles for now. I still am probably at some point going to use flappy paddles on the Drenth. That's what I spec'd the build of the gearbox for, was for the pneumatic air shifter. But for now, quite enjoying using the lever, so I might as well get rid of these, get them out of the way. You know, think of the weight saving.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
Phil owes you lunch.
I do, definitely.
For all the things you've sent me in the past.
all those things that weren't for me, but this one is, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Or a t-shirt or something, let me know.
No problem.
So yeah, look.
Go on then.
I mean, don't look too close here, because this hasn't got the reinforcement structure in it. Yeah. Look at that.
Like a real
It's
car.
like a real car again.
Don't you have to remove the boot? That's good, that is.
That is strong. And it even opens.
As you can see, it doesn't have a gas strut.
Yeah, I was
as we
going to
were
say, did
battling
you
with
tell everyone we gave up on that after
No, I didn't.
4 holes drilled in it? And I was just like, you know what, we can deal with that another day. We've got more important things to deal with. But yeah, the problem was with having the gas strut on just one side, it was actually shoving the boot lid over this way, crashing into this bit here. So it needs 2 weaker gas struts really to work. But no, that is real car.
Yes. Right, next thing.
Most important of jobs done, badges back on the airbox. So yeah, just a bit of 3M clear tape on that, and hopefully they stay on, we'll see.
Is this the last bit, a quick alignment?
Yeah, I'm going to use a new product that we've got. We've got quite a few of these in stock, but probably seen this for years, just using quite crude, really heavy steel right angle plates that we cut some slots in to do our toe. The rear we know is absolutely set because we were quite specific about it before it went to the body shop. So we don't need to worry about the rear alignment at all. All we'd need to do is just check that the toe on the front is the same. Now I've done the lower arm changes. I think it should be there or thereabouts, but it might need a little tweak. So yeah, we've got these toe plates here. Bear with me in a minute, we'll get this bolted together.
We figured it out and got it mounted.
Yeah. So, I haven't read the instructions. I'm sure there are instructions. But it's important that you get the positions that touch the wheel equal left and right. They have to be exactly the same. So there's these nice measurements on this. We've just gone 2 in on that one, 2 in on that one, and the centre's touching as well. But yeah, that's now ready to put tape measures through here. So we'll poke these through to the other side. Tape measures aren't included. You can just get 2 of the same ones from any hardware store.
Yeah. So I put pressure on this side.
We've got the steering locked off in the car with a steering wheel clamp. So yeah, if you're against that tight there,
yeah,
I pull these tapes tight. It's a bit too much toe out. Yeah, it has changed a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to need to stick a bar against the car. Okay, all levelled up, and now we have 3mm toe out. There's a strong chance that once I drive this steering wheel is still going to be off or something, so you know, I'm fully expecting to be back here doing the same thing again in a second. But yeah, time to take it for a little drive.
Ready to stink?
Get out of here as quickly as possible so we don't smell it.
Yeah. Oh dear, that's broken. So he's just reloaded the old map before he messed with it. Let's see if this fixes it. I missed that. No better?
Just slow.
Right.
Just really, really slow.
Annoying. Oh, here we go. Still broken.
It's missing bad.
Yeah. Oh well. See ya. Yeah, somehow got the traction control on.
I can't turn the traction control off all the way.
Right.
It's not working, the cowl switch here, so it
Didn't we
damaged under here.
Oh, we've had that up, haven't we?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
we better have that off then.
It might just be that. That might explain slowness in first gear.
Yeah.
In the wet.
Yeah, alright. ECU's throwing a code for no lambda on one side, so I'll have a quick poke around these sensors and make sure the wiring hasn't burnt through or something. Everything's pretty toasty under here, but it is plugged in. Phil's found a little problem up there. Where are you?
Somewhere up there.
Yeah.
Trying to put the trim back together, but yeah, we've so the little cowl switch that we use, which is a rotary switch. Here. This switch here, it was unplugged underneath here because we've had this out to do. I can't remember what we were doing.
Start button.
Yeah, but as you can see, that middle number there, you can see that changes here when I click this. That was unplugged and the dash was reading 10, so I'm not sure whether that would then mean that the ECU goes into some kind of default limp mode or something.
Probably goes off the end of the map or something.
Yeah, which might explain the slowness, but we'll see. Put this back together, see if we can find the problem with the lambda, because one of them it says is not there, but it is plugged in. And go for another rip now that it's pissing down.
And there's Mel.
See you, Mel.
Right, round 3 or 4?
10, I reckon. It's probably 3 or 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we've had worse.
I don't know if it's fixed yet.
Yeah, things do have a tendency to fight us when we leave them last minute.
Yeah.
It's pretty much always the way. We're on track tomorrow. It's going to fight us. Fingers crossed.
That sounds better. Pretty much done. Time for the other E30 now. Quick alignment check for you. I'm going to check if it's falling off. I can't remember what I did and didn't do.
That's the problem with leaving things months, isn't it?
Yeah, I know I've got bigger tyres and not a leaky thermostat and an exhaust that's back on, but whatever else, I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, you pulled the exhaust off on the trailer, didn't you?
Yeah,
many angers that nobody saw on these vlogs.
yeah, no, it was last time we used it.
Sweet. So, this one, probably a good point to end really, I would have thought. That's a F-load of work that we've done over the past
two weeks, yeah.
2 weeks, something like that, and after getting it back from Gaz's. The little test there doesn't really tell me much, but it does tell me that the alignment seems pretty good, it seems to brake okay, and now obviously we've fixed that traction control issue. We've got kind of the power that we think. You never know until it's fully loaded up what it's actually going to do. And the airbox sounds absolutely awesome. I reckon that it's not going to come into full sing mode until we've got real load on the engine.
It's certainly got little zings.
It has, yeah, definitely. And you know, you'll probably notice the exhaust on this is really quiet if you're not familiar with this car. Induction is the best. But it's also the thing that could get you kicked off Donington. It's, you know, noise.
Well, you start nailing that rev limiter.
Yeah, well,
down the straight.
it seems to have a good push off the back of that rev limiter.
You know, it made me jump.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for watching as always. Thank you for supporting us by buying from driftworks.com. Loads of stuff in the shop there, t-shirts, all sorts, suspension, anything you want. Go and check it out, see if there's anything you want that funds the stupidity of these things that we do. Always much appreciated, and yeah, we'll catch you in the next one, which will hopefully be us rinsing around Donington in two E30s. We'll see you then.